Hello YouTube family, thanks again for watching this video. Please please hit the subscribe button, and again thanks for joining me. This is my last video for today, and I should already be asleep probably, but I wanted to get this CPAC video knocked out. It's went on over the weekend. I was working over the weekend, and it took quite a while editing it, going through, looking at what I wanted to talk about. But it's CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. It's a gathering every year for right-wing people to get together and jerk each other off. This year, as the Republicans lost power in every area of government except the judiciary, and Donald Trump got removed from office through the last election. It ended up being a referendum for Trump. All of the most right-wing of the folks came out to basically jerk Trump off and tell him how much they loved him. This year's CPAC came replete with the proverbial golden calf, or in this case, the golden horse's ass. Donald Trump had a golden effigy there for his loving, loyal fans to worship. And, the irony being, these are the people that cleave so hard to religion and Christianity and denounce all these people of other religions and vilify people from other religions, and here they are. The Bible speaks specifically against worshiping these kinds of idols, but it's the Republican right-wing evangelicals. They will worship their golden horse's ass to their heart's content. And it's absurd, but it's CPAC. What are you going to do? Also, one of the things that came up here at CPAC was this odd stage design they have. At the top is the CPAC 2021 stage design. At the bottom is insignia on the collar of a Nazi soldier during World War II. It's called a rune. It was common among the Nazi soldiers during World War II. It's odd. I find it extremely odd. I mean, the insignia, the way they have it on the bottom picture, it's turned. They turn the photograph to where it's in the same orientation as the stage, so that you can easily see that the stage design is identical. I mean, the stage design is a rune, a Nazi rune, which is odd. It's people at CPAC claim that it was a coincidence, that their stage design just happened to mirror exactly this Nazi insignia. This is a group of white neo-Nazis in America, and you can see in the center of the picture is a flag with a Nazi rune on it. Also, they've got their white flags and their Confederate flag, battle flags, and all the other garbage that you'll get with the right-wing folks. I just thought it was supremely odd. And I mean, it's completely possible that it is a coincidence that the CPAC stage just happened to be designed in the shape of this Nazi rune emblem. I don't know that I believe it, though. I mean, you have people constantly on the right dog whistling to the hateful right-wing element of their party. They're constantly, giving nods to this white supremacist, radical far-right wing of the party. And, I mean, the thing is, at this point, I don't know how big that extremely racist, like white supremacist, white nationalist side is. It seems rather large right now. But that's CPAC. They had their Nazi rune stage. They had their golden horse's ass effigy of Trump for everybody to stand around and worship. And let's get to the video footage, which is the CPAC speakers that I have. I put together a video montage of Hawley, Cruz, and Trump. So let's try and work our way through that.
Didn't anybody tell you that you're supposed to be canceled? You didn't get the memo. You're supposed to ask permission before you came here today.
In the first segment, Hawley was saying you were supposed to ask permission before you came here. And I guess that's just some kind of reference to the cancel culture theme of the CPAC. A lot of the stuff they said really didn't make a lot of sense.
Canceled. The last 6 weeks, the radical left, their corporate allies, the liberal media, have tried to cancel me, censor me, expel me, shut me down, stop me from representing the people of Missouri, stop me from representing you.
In the second sequence, Hawley was trying to say that liberals in the media tried to cancel him and keep him from representing the people of Missouri. No, what we want is for you to represent the people of Missouri. What we do not want is for you to be a representative from Missouri trying to cancel out the votes of people in the states of Pennsylvania or Michigan or Wisconsin. Nobody's trying to cancel you, dude.
I just want to say, we're not the past, we're the future. Down to the cancel.
There you're saying, we're not the past, we're the future. Which is laughable, because so much of the policy that Republicans want is in the past. They want to go back to archaic, more archaic policy.
So culture, we're not going to be told what we can say or do, but listen, we're facing a fight for the republic itself.
You know, he made his nod towards cancel culture there. He also said we're facing a fight for the republic. The kind of rhetoric that caused the January 6th incident, which is what's so frustrating with these guys. People like Hawley don't seem to get it, that their rhetoric really does matter. I mean, there are people in their crowd that are listening to this.
Of radical liberals. It's called oligarchy. It's a perilous moment. But that's the fight of our time in history. You've always got a small...
And then it goes on 6, 7, 8, and 9, or 6. He just makes a call out of radical liberals. That's a hot button thing for Republicans, is to use that term, radical liberal, no matter if somebody's a radical liberal or not. That's the term they're going to use. You know, he brought up oligarchy, which is funny because Hawley takes money from these wealthy billionaires and corporations and pays homage to the oligarchy just like every other politician. He talks about this being a perilous moment, which it could be if it becomes violent, and his side of the aisle is so violent. And then he talks about we're in the fight
group
of
of
our
people
time.
who think they know best, and they ought to be in charge, and they ought to be able to tell us what to think and do.
And he goes on to say that there's a small group of people who know best and ought to be able to tell us what to do, which is funny. I mean, he could be talking about the Republican Party, saying that they know best and women shouldn't have the ability to control their own bodies. It's nonsensical.
The last 2 months, the big tech corporations have deplatformed conservatives left and right, shut them up, shut them out, shut them down.
Goes on to talk about big tech trying to shut up conservatives, which is the attack on the social media platforms and various tech companies. Tech companies by far support Democrats more than Republicans. That's why Republicans attack the tech companies. As you notice, they're not attacking the companies that give them money.
I stood up and I said, we ought to have a debate about election integrity.
They're saying he stood up in the Senate to say we should have a debate about election integrity. What he actually did was went for months saying the election was stolen, saying that Donald Trump was supporting Donald Trump's notion of Trump won the election, there was voter fraud, and it needed to be investigated. What he did was help fire up this group that attacked the Capitol on January 6th. That's why Josh Hawley is a traitor to the United States of America. And as far as people wanting him out of office, I don't care. He should resign. I mean, he's a traitor to the country.
Oh, you know what the result was. I was called a traitor. I was called a seditionist. The radical left said I should be resigned, and if I wouldn't resign, I should be expelled from the United States Senate.
There he was saying what I already said. And yes, I do believe you are a seditious traitor to the United States. You 100% supported that. Even after the attack on January 6th, you still push forward with your BS that isn't supported in legislation at all, isn't supported in the Constitution. Nothing was ever put together for you from the state of Missouri to call out the state of Pennsylvania's voting, or Minnesota, or Michigan, or Wisconsin, or Arizona, or anyone else, or Georgia. It's that state's responsibility, and they have representatives to do that.
They've tried to silence me. They canceled a book I was writing called The Tyranny of Big Tech. These people have no sense of irony. It's still going to get published, by the way. It'll be out soon. More.
There he went on to talk about his canceled book. Simon & Schuster had a deal with him to publish a book after Hawley's participation in pushing these radical folks that attacked the Capitol on January 6th. They canceled their contract with him, and that was not a political thing. It was not a left thing. It was a corporation making the decision that they felt like he was bad for business. Either that, or they just felt like they didn't want to be associated with his name or face. They didn't want his name or face attached to their brand. You know, he whined about it because it's money for him. You know, whether average people buy the book or not, I really doubt right-wing supporters are going to buy the book and read it. Most likely, his book will be purchased in bulk purchases by his donors. People, the same people that give him money, they'll go out and buy large amounts of his books at a time, give it away at dinners or whatever, but he makes money off of it. He was upset because that's a source of money he was going to make that was taken away temporarily. Another publisher came along, is going to publish the book. He's a senator. He's going to get his book published. He was never canceled. He just had his contract with a company terminated. And in the sheer absurdity of the Republican Party, he whines about being canceled, then says, my book will be out soon.
My baby Abigail, my wife and I welcomed her on November the 9th, so she's just over 3 months old. Thank you.
There he talked about he has a 3-month-old baby, and he gets applause. I mean, it's absurd to me that he's a politician giving a political speech, and saying that I managed to procreate is an applause line in this crowd. I mean, it's absurd to me. I managed to have sex with my wife and impregnate her, and they're like, yes, great job. That just struck me as such an odd thing.
That a Christian worship leader at a church in this country who has albums, worship albums he put out, he just got a call this morning from his corporate distributor, and they told him they're not going to distribute his next album. What was his sin? He supported Donald Trump. You know?
There he was talking about a Christian worship leader who made albums, and he had his contract canceled by a distributor. The reason being that he supported Donald Trump, and I do not believe that one bit. I looked online, I couldn't find who supposedly this religious worship leader was. If it happened, it's not a story that's been written about, apparently. And did a distributor terminate a contract with a religious leader because he supported Trump? No. If it did happen, there's more to it than that. It's sort of like the Simon & Schuster and Hawley thing. Something about this pastor ended up making that distributor feel like we don't want him associated with our brand. We're not going to distribute his works. And it has nothing to do with he just supported Donald Trump.
They paid our workers poverty wages.
There he talks about tech companies paying our workers poverty wages. Well, I have an idea for you, Mr. Hawley. You are a senator. How about, since the budget's going through the Senate right now, or not the budget, the stimulus deal, Bernie Sanders is planning on putting in an amendment for the $15 per hour minimum wage. How about you vote for it? I dare you. How about you, instead of getting in front of a group of old white Republicans and pandering to them, kissing Trump's ass, and making these meaningless speeches, you go to the Senate, and if you really believe it's a bad thing for workers in America to be paid poverty wages, you go and vote for the minimum wage, the $15 per hour. How about that? You can actually take an action that has meaning rather than your meaningless words in a speech. I dare you to go and vote for the $15 per hour minimum wage in the Senate. It's available, and you're a senator. You could do it.
We got to put American workers first.
Well, there he's talking about putting American workers first, which is not true. He's a Republican. He supports plenty of corporations that outsource labor, and they absolutely would like to have Americans work for subpar wages.
If you think that citizenship actually matters, well, my goodness, I mean, you're a bigot. You know?
There he was talking about the citizenship. If you believe in citizenship matters, then you're a bigot. No. If you try and deny a certain group of people based on their race or religion from being able to enter this country, then you are a bigot. That's simply what it is. You know, they talk about these things like it's very general. If you say you believe citizenship matters, then people will call you a bigot. No, that is not true. People will call you a bigot when you are a bigot and you say things that are bigoted. That's how you get called a bigot.
Where I come from in Missouri, I grew up in rural Missouri, small town right in the middle of Missouri. It's a working class town full of good folks.
There he was talking about he comes from a rural Missouri working class town. However, Josh Hawley is not a rural working class guy. His dad was a wealthy banker. His father was wealthy and prominent and well connected. Ended up joining in with a large banking conglomerate and became wealthier, and which is what helped Josh Hawley attend very prestigious, expensive schools and get his nice, fancy law degree. Josh Hawley makes those comments to make it sound like he knows you, like he knows where you're from. He knows what it is to be a working class American. He doesn't. He was born into wealth and privilege like so many of the people that are in Congress.
We heard that we are systemically racist.
Systematic racism, yes, that is a big problem. That's why we need stuff like the defund the police stuff to go through.
Naming our history and saying it is good.
Our history is good. Our history is also embarrassing. It's also shocking. It's bad. It's funny how you try and give these one-sided speeches.
We're proud to live in a country that liberated slaves.
There you're saying we're proud to live in a country that liberated slaves. It sounds like we went into some other country where there were slaves and liberated them. How about we live in a country that instituted slavery, that shipped people from Africa to here in chains and had them spend over 200 years as slaves? You don't get credit for finally freeing them after almost 300 years, dude. Sorry, it didn't work that way.
Union now, union forever.
Say.
Union now, union forever. Just pandering to his base. I don't know that has any meaning to him at all. It's words. He's trying to say the words that he thinks will give him an edge on the 2024 presidential primary nomination.
Orlando is awesome. It's not as nice as Cancun.
Ted Cruz decides to go with joking about his trip to Cancun, while there are still thousands of his constituents in Texas who don't have power or water. He's joking about the instance where there were people dying in Texas, literally freezing to death, millions without water or power, and he was going to hop on a plane and go to Cancun. And now it's just a joke. That's how seriously Republicans take human life and dignity in this country.
For a second there, I thought we were in Des Moines. That one took people.
There, he made the comment. For a second there, I thought we were in Des Moines. I have no idea what he's talking about. The crowd at this audience has no idea what he was talking about. And, Cruz says it took a minute there. No, it's days later at this point. They still don't get it. You're not funny. That's the thing, Ted Cruz. You're just not funny. You're another traitor to the United States who just isn't funny.
We are gathered in dark times.
And there he was saying we are gathered in dark times. Dark like your constituents who still don't have power, Ted Cruz, while you're there in Florida giving a speech, trying to pander to the right-wing Trumpian base in order to get your leg up on the 2024 presidential primary bid.
Bernie is wearing mittens. And AOC is telling us she was murdered.
There he goes on about Bernie is wearing mittens and AOC is telling us she was murdered. Except he uses a embarrassing voice, which I don't know if he believes that's what AOC sounds like or what he was trying to do with the voice there. But I don't get it. These Republicans try to tell jokes and they're just not funny. I mean, I don't know if people are supposed to laugh when he says Bernie is wearing mittens. I mean, the Bernie thing was funny, not as funny as the memes people put together out of it. But, Bernie sitting there in his coat and his mittens looking pissed off like he always does is funny. What people photoshopped that image of him into was hilarious. Ted Cruz, I don't know if he thought he was going to get a laugh line there. And then he talks about AOC as telling us she was murdered. She wasn't telling us she was murdered. She was telling us that you contributed into people trying to kill her. Because you, along with Josh Hawley, are a traitor to the United States. You went along with this line of Donald Trump claiming there was voter fraud, that the election was stolen, and you fired this crowd up that ended up breaking into the Capitol and were just down the hall from AOC as she thought she was going to be harmed or killed, along with other Democrats and Republicans in office, and you yourself, Ted Cruz, you pansy little bitch, you also ran and hid. So don't give me this like there was nothing to fear, because your pansy ass also ran and hid, Ted.
We will fight.
That was a clip of Ted Cruz saying that we will fight, and yeah, they will. They'll fight to break into the Capitol and try and hurt people.
Listen to William Wallace.
He invoked William Wallace there from Braveheart. Braveheart fame. I mean, William Wallace was a real person. I don't know what his point was in just exclaiming to listen to William Wallace. There was no context he gave with that, just a random thing he said.
The young people gathered here.
Yes, so many young people. Look at all the gray hairs.
And let's be clear, they're not your father. Who are...
They're not your father. How about your father, Ted Cruz? I have it on good word from a former president of the United States that your father is a murderer who assisted in the assassination of JFK. How about that, Ted Cruz? How about the guy whose ass you're constantly kissing, insulted your wife, called her ugly, and insulted your father, and now you just nonstop kiss his ass? How about that, bitch boy?
Are here, and I'm proud to tell you, Gina Carano is standing with us.
And there he exclaims that Gina Carano is standing with them. Which will be good, Ted. You can hide behind her if there's any trouble.
Because we believe in diversity. We believe.
And the exclamation that they believe in diversity in the Republican Party. That's why it's so white. They believe in every shade of white.
You see statists in California putting 37 tons of sand in a skate park. Because ain't nobody having fun while the socialists are in charge.
There he was talking about status in California putting 37 tons of sand in a skate park to make sure that nobody had fun while the socialists were in charge. The funny thing is, I read about the status comment, and it goes back to his evangelical father, and status is a reference to secular humanism. That is the idea of being secular rather than religious, having secular leaders rather than religious leaders. And it's a kind of a wink and a nod to these type of devout right-wing Christians where Ted Cruz comes from, which is called dominionist. There was an article about Ted Cruz displaying his dominionist roots with his comments about status and I forget the other word, but status that is secular humanism. And as far as putting the sand in the skate park, I'm sure it was done to prevent people from going to the skate park, crowding into it, and skating while there were shutdowns and mask mandates and stay-at-home orders during the coronavirus, which makes sense. Why not? Why not avoid people getting together in times like that?
Abolish the police. And this virus, magically, no one will get infected. You can French kiss the guy next to you, yelling, abolish the police. And no one will get infected. But if you go to church and say, amazing grace, everyone's going to die.
There he was talking about the defund the police, the protest. You can walk with people and French kiss the person next to you with no problem. But if you go to church and sing Amazing Grace, everyone's going to die. It's hyperbole and it's BS. And while there were protests, for the BLM protests and the defund the police protests, there were plenty of people criticizing the protesters who didn't wear masks, who were too close together. Granted, a lot of times they were attacked by police and kind of forced to end up in closer proximity than they started out at.
Can I just stop and say how strange the rules are right now? I want to understand how this virus works. So when you walk in, you got to put your mask on. Sadly, I've got two. You walk in, you got to put your mask on. You sit down, you take your mask off. See, apparently the virus is actually connected to elevation.
There he is making fun of mask rules because it's CPAC. You're saying you put the mask on, you walk in, when you sit down, there's no problem. No, it's not that there's no problem when you sit down, Ted. It's that in order to eat at a restaurant, you got to take your mask off, unless you're going to look like a buffoon and try and shove it through the mask. And he was just being ridiculous and hyperbolic, and it's not a surprise. Of course, then he follows it up.
And listen, let's be clear, this is a dangerous virus.
Was saying that this is a dangerous virus. So he just made fun of the mask that we wear for the virus, and then says it's a dangerous virus. No sense whatsoever.
You know, the U.S. Capitol has giant fences with razor wires and 5,000 National Guard standing out front. There
he was talking about the giant fences around the Capitol that are there because Trump's fans that you helped inspire attacked the Capitol, Ted. Remember that? The day you ran and hid?
Los Angeles, there's some skater kid who's 19, who's told that it's hip and chic and cool to be a leftist socialist, man.
They was talking about some skater kid in L.A. who was told it's hip to be socialist. And so you have the Republican Party constantly, I don't know why it's always some kind of like long-haired skater kid. They're in L.A. They always put together these same straw men they want to make arguments against.
They would discover what the state of Texas thinks about the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms.
Yes, he had to reference the Second Amendment. It's CPAC.
Especially now, the left, they are shrill. They are angry. How many leftists does it take to screw in a light bulb? That's not funny!
No, Ted, you're not funny.
You know, SNL is unwatchable. The late night comedy, they stand up and say, we hate Donald Trump. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I kind of doubt late night comedians just stand up there and say we hate Trump. Most likely they tell jokes that are funny, and you're upset because you're not funny. That's the thing. The late night comedians, people like Stephen Colbert, will actually get laughs from people because what they do is funny because they're professional comedians. You, however, Ted, sometimes just put together a word salad.
And you know what? There are a whole lot of voices in Washington that want to just erase the last 4 years.
All the voices in Washington that want to erase the last 4 years sounds like the start of the Trump administration. Except in that case, they were wanting to erase the last 8 years.
And they look at Donald J. Trump, and they look at the millions and millions of people inspired who went to battle fighting alongside President Trump, and they're terrified.
Yes, we just saw a clip of the people that wanted to go to battle for Trump and kill members of Congress that you assisted in, Ted. You're a traitor.
Hey, let me tell you this right now. Donald J. Trump ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, Trump ain't going anywhere, Ted. You lost to him, and now he's there for good. How do you think about that, Ted? If Trump runs for the Republican nomination in 2024, you have no shot, Ted. Then you have to continue kissing the ass of the guy who said your wife is ugly and your dad's a murderer. How does that feel, Ted? Does it make you feel like a man to constantly kiss the ass of the guy who insults your family? You're kissing his ass so much nowadays, Ted. I'm assuming you also agree that your wife is ugly and your dad's a murderer.
That is our party, and these deplorables are here to stay. Ken.
The deplorables are here to stay. Apparently, you're there, Ted.
In the immortal words of William Wallace, freedom!
During his speech, Ted Cruz made multiple references to movies like Star Wars and Star Trek, and the thing is, the crowd was completely silent. I mean, if you look at any of the video clips of the audiences at CPAC, It was these rather old white men and women, and they were not getting it. I get the idea. They didn't watch Star Wars. They didn't watch Star Trek. I'm assuming they got no idea what Braveheart is. I would just about guarantee that most, if not all of them, have no idea who William Wallace is. And most of the stuff Ted Cruz, when he was trying to be funny, it was just falling flat. They did not get it. Granted, he's not funny, but still some of the things he said just had no setup or punchline. It wasn't a joke. He was just trying to say things and get laughs, just like he was trying to say some things and get applause, and it failed. And he's just such a failure at doing that. Oh my gosh, he's embarrassing to watch. And next up is Trump.
Do you miss me yet?
No, I don't miss you.
I'm going to continue to fight right by your side. We will do what we've done right from the beginning, which is to win. We're not starting new parties.
He talks about he's not going to start a party.
You know, they kept saying...
He don't need to. He owns the Republican Party.
We have the Republican Party. It's going to unite and be stronger than ever before. I am not starting a new party. Many people have asked, what is Trumpism? A new term being used more and more. I'm hearing that term more and more. I didn't come up with it. It means low taxes and eliminating job-killing regulations, Trumpism. It means strong borders. It means no riots in the streets. It means law enforcement. It means very strong protection for the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. It means support for the forgotten men and women who have been taken advantage of for so many years, and they were doing great. And it means a strong military. And of course, we respect our great American flag.
He goes on this long laundry list of, he asks the question, what is Trumpism? And he's like, it means this, it means this, it means low taxes, eliminating regulations, strong borders, no riots in the streets, which, riots in the Capitol, I guess, not in the streets. We just have it in Washington here in the halls of power. Strong Second Amendment, support for forgotten men and women. Yeah, that never came about. Strong military, like we've ever had a weak military. And respect the great American flag. What's so great about it? It's a piece of cloth. And then the crowd starts chanting, "We love you," just to show Donald Trump that they are 100% his bitches. And if the golden horse's ass effigy in the hallway wasn't enough to let him know, they were going to tell him directly.
You know, when you think about "we love you," you're saying that about...
Well, you're a horse's ass.
To say it.
You're pretty ignorant.
I don't know.
You pretend to be a businessman.
I hate to admit it, but it's an honor that you would say it. We believe in patriotic education and strongly oppose the radical indoctrination of America's youth. It's horrible. We embrace free thought. We stand up to political correctors. And we reject left-wing lunacy, and in particular, we reject cancel culture. This election was rigged, and the Supreme Court and other courts didn't want to do anything about it. We need election integrity and election reform immediately. Republicans should be the party of honest elections that can give everyone confidence in the future of our country. Without honest elections, who has confidence? Who has confidence? With your help, we will take back the House. We will win the Senate. And then a Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House. And I wonder who that will be. I wonder who that will be.
And Donald Trump, of course, is going to end his segment of the speech with talking about the election was rigged. We need election integrity. we're going to take back the House, the Senate, and the White House, blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump lost the House, the Senate, and the White House because of his ineffectual leadership and his absurd, annoying, constant doing something to embarrass us, to embarrass the country, to embarrass himself, or to make the country weaker. People talk about that border wall, it's going to strengthen our borders. No. Everything he did made this country weaker. Made us less protected, and it's absurd. But he got his day. He got his America Uncanceled CPAC. And this entire thing was a giant kiss of Donald Trump's ass. At this point, it looks to me like a large chunk of the Republican establishment, or elected Republican leaders, all realize the base is 100% in for Donald Trump. They've got to continue kissing his ass. They've got to continue pandering to Donald Trump, showing fealty to Donald Trump, or else they're in danger of being out of power. And that's what this CPAC was all about, and it was a waste. It's horrible. But thanks again for joining me, and I hope you had a laugh or two and enjoyed this video. Have a good night.